Hey everyone, today I'm going to help you connect the Marzocco Acaia scale to your Pico grinder and your Marzocco Mini R. There's a little bit of a setup to be involved, but once you do that, you'll be able to grind your coffee straight into your dosing pot via weight, and you'll also be able to extract your recipes straight into the cup using weight as well. So it's a little bit of a setup, but it's definitely going to give you fantastic outcomes. So stick with me as I take you through this. If you don't have the Pico, you'll be able to jump through time markers and go straight to the Mini or vice versa, but I'll take you through the whole process and we'll make some great coffee together. So once you've opened the box, there'll be some sort of guide there that talks about downloading the app. That's the first place you need to go. It's either in the App Store. If you have a look at Marzocco Home, it'll come up and it is just titled Marzocco. It's got the white background with the black line there. Download that app, get it installed and create yourself a user ID and an account, and then you'll be ready to start to register your individual products. Once you've got the app open, you can see that you could add a device. Now you can choose whether you want to use your scale, your Pico, or your coffee machine first. But essentially, what you need to do is make sure that you're on the same Wi-Fi network. Now, some people can struggle with this because you might have your computer or your laptop on the 5G network, but your coffee equipment might be on the non-5G network. So just make sure in this process that you've got all devices connected to the exact same network. Here you can see I'm using the Artistic Guest network, and it just meant that the machines here and the scale all seem to work quite easy for the iPad as well. Because the iPad used to run in the back end of our network, it was connected to our printers. So just something to consider, which network the machines are natively connecting to and which ones you're asking your iPad or your device to have it connect on the same network. If they're not the same, none of this is going to work. Now, so the cool thing about the app now is you do have what's called a coffee station. So right here, I've got my Pico, my Mini R, and the scale, and I've called this my coffee lab, or the Artistic Coffee Lab coffee station. Now you can develop that, but you have to have each individual item ready to go first. So if you're going back and searching for a piece of equipment or adding a device, once you click on that, you can see the individual items. Now if they're not showing up, each piece of equipment has a way to access the Bluetooth to activate. So let's talk about the Pico grinder first. If you missed this part, if you click on the app, it'll actually take you to the website and tell you exactly the process I'm about to explain. But with the Pico grinder, turn the grinder off first, use your fingers and hold down the left and right dose buttons and turn the grinder back on. That'll activate the Bluetooth opportunity to reset essentially, and then you should see that appear in the app. With the Marzocco Mini R, you have to do the same process. You turn the machine off, you have the lever to the far left, you turn the machine back on, you'll see the dial on the front here will change, and then once it's reset itself, bring the lever back to the closed position, and you'll start to see that that has opened up in the app. You'll see in the section of the app that there's equipment and then there's accessories. So if you scroll down into the accessories section, the scale should be appearing as well by itself. Just turning that on and off, it seems to go straight into the connectivity between this whole setup, but you may need to calibrate your scale before you do this whole process. So maybe look into that to make sure you get accuracy between grinding and your extractions as well. So you should start to see your grinder, your coffee machine and your scale all being in your app now, or connected, let's say. You can now make that group and allocate them into the coffee group that you have. So once you allocate them across, you'll be able to see them all completely in your coffee station, which is really easy. It allows you to then start to play with a little bit more of the additional features. You'll be able to go into the Pico and allocate how much grind is going to be allocated to button 1 or your single dose. You can do the same for your double dose. Now for us, I'm looking at 20 grams for our double dose. And when I go into the Marzocco Mini and I want to pick my single dose or my double dose, I'm going to do our normal style recipes. So we're going to do a 1-to-1 ratio for a ristretto, which is 20 grams, and in dose 2 we're going to have 40 grams, which is going to be our 2-to-1 ratio as well. There are a lot of extra settings that you can change inside the coffee machine. You can change your boiler temperatures, pre-infusions, and all those other things there, but that's for another video. But as you're looking through, there's certainly a lot of control that you can have inside that machine to make sure you're going to brew that amazing cup. If you're using something like our Champion blend that I'm using here today, definitely change the temperature on the front of the brew group to 93 degrees, and that's going to give you a fantastic cup of coffee. So when you go through this process, you may find you either need to update the app or perhaps the software in the Pico or the Linea Mini R. So they will prompt you to update those, and it will just pop you back in the cycle again to then actually calibrate your machine to the app. So let it do its software update, let it connect to the internet, and then you'll just have to go back and start that process again. But at least you know you've got the newest firmware in your grinder or the Mini R, and you'll be set to go. Now I know this all sounds fantastic, that we can grind by weight and dose by weight using the Acaia scale. There is one little hiccup. Unfortunately, to be able to swap between the grinder and the machine, you do have to use the app to allocate the scale to connect to the Pico grinder so that it does the dose. And then when you want to extract, you do have to go back into the app to then select to make sure that the scale is connecting back to the coffee machine. There's no real way for you to quickly swap between one scale. So maybe, hey, you need two scales to make this seamless. Otherwise, once it's all set up, you could just be using the manual buttons on the front of your grinder after it's been set up by using the scale. Leaving the scale to be connected to your coffee machine, which is probably going to be a lot easier for you to then manage and make sure you're getting that right single or double dose, or 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 ratio that we talked about a bit earlier. So how about we make a coffee using our coffee station options? So click on that and we're going to go and have a look into the coffee machine. I'm going to make sure that we're going to be doing a 2-to-1 ratio, and we're going to be using our double shot button on the Pico grinder. So now we're going to make a coffee, and you'll see you've got the universal portafilter handle. This is the double spout. You might have the single spout, or you can go to the naked as well. Now in our test, we did find that there's a little bit of an overrun when you do have the double spout basket in there, because essentially there's liquid in here which has to make its way through. If you're looking for accuracy, definitely use a naked, and you'll find that the extraction is going to be spot on. Well, it should be closer. Just remember, you've got to start with a hot handle, and if you do the quick left and right here, you can set your machine up for a little flush. If you're going to have pre-infusion, that's fine as well, but make sure your handle is clean, hot and dry before you do any of this extraction. Otherwise, you're only going to end up with a poor quality flavor, and the heat isn't going to end up into the coffee puck. So we're going to pick our second option, which I've set up to the 20 grams of dose. Pop your dosing pot on and give the scale a bit of a tear. Press the middle button and it will activate to give you the second dose, which is 20 grams. A couple of beeps there will signify that it's got the right dose, and we do find it's pretty accurate, maybe 0.1 of a gram out, so that's not too bad at all. So we'll get our dose into our portafilter handle, a little bit of distributing, and a tamp as well, and let's bring the scale over and see what the extraction is going to be like. So the scale is still connected to the Pico grinder. So I'm just going to jump into the app, into my coffee station here, and pick the Marzocco Mini R. And just make sure you refresh the scale back to connect with the coffee machine. So it's in the brew by weight section, and you'll see that the scale will come up and it'll turn green. And then on the scale, you'll start to see the recipe or the dose that you have. Now in this example, I've got the 40 gram, which is our 2-to-1. So once we've got that locked in place and we're happy with the selections in the app, bring over your scale, lock in your portafilter handle. We'll pop on our cup. This has actually done an auto tear, which is great. Just another setting on the scale that you can activate as well. And then when you're ready, start to brew. That is a pretty awesome looking coffee shop. Well, there you have it. 30 seconds is what we were trying to aim for by dialing our grind in, and we did just fall a little bit short with the naked handle. In a couple of the tests with the double spouts, it did run over just a little bit, but as it progresses, it will certainly learn how quickly that liquid's coming out and get a little bit better in the accuracy of your recipes. Now, the one thing you've got to consider, if you do change your grind setting, all of these are going to have to change, because your grind controls the flow that's happening into your cup, so it will start to have to readjust for those moments as well. But if you're using the app and basically dialing it in, making sure that your scale is trained, because that's what they talk about, training it or calibrating it, it's going to bring the accuracy right up cup by cup for you. So if I was to look at a coffee shot, I want to know if there's any over extraction. Over here you can see all the first part of the extraction coming out, which is typically thick and rich and sweet, and that's why we look at ristrettos. Then we start to see some of what I call a body coming out, this nice caramel color. But see this little pale bit with a couple of little drop bubbles on it? That is where we're starting to over extract coffee. So if you're really pushing a fine grind, you may find that you'll get this paleness come out. Now look for that, try and cut off your shots beforehand, and you'll have a really good balanced espresso. Now, if you're going to put milk with this, no one's going to taste that little bit of paleness, but essentially getting the right recipe and the right ratio is really important. And with the scale, essentially, you can get the right amount of dose into your portafilter handle, and you'll be able to adjust that exactly with the scale and the doses in the Linea Mini R to make sure that you're getting this outcome every single time. One last little tip for you, just remember the age of your beans. If you're getting fresh beans or old beans, they're going to change how much water actually, when you're extracting, it gets absorbed by the coffee particles. So you might find if you've got a humid day, shots might run a bit longer. If it's really dry, again, it might run a bit shorter. So the produce and the age of the coffee beans is certainly key to making sure that the science involved here is accurate every single time. Anyway, I hope that's helped you learn how to use the Marzocco Acaia scale with the Pico and the Linea Mini R. If you've got any questions, hey, start the conversations down below in the community, and we'll look to try and share some of those outcomes you're having. You know, having any tricky moments with the apps, I'm sure we can all help each other in making that happen. Or have you got a really specific recipe that you've found that works really, really well? Share it there. We'd love to know what you're achieving. Is a 2-to-1 what you like? A 1-to-1, or hey, is the Lungo, that American 3-to-1 ratio, something that you're considered? Anyway, any other questions, pop them down below. Happy to answer them. Thanks very much for watching. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe. Hit that subscriber button because you will get notified when we put up our latest videos. It certainly helps us grow our channel, and it also certainly helps us be inspired to make better content for you. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you next time. Cheers. That is a good espresso.